The apartment held its breath. No footsteps above me, no elevator cables whining, no neighbor's TV leaking through drywall. The air tasted like metal from radiator heat, and the only light came from the stove clock, cutting the kitchen into hard shapes. Someone had lifted the framed photo off the entry table and left a clean rectangle of dust behind, like a missing tooth. Why would anyone take that and leave the stand? Why was the top desk drawer open with the passport slot empty? Why was the ring box on the counter with the lid snapped open? I knew, even then, that his family would show up again years later and ask for a meeting, like nothing had been broken, like the floor hadn't shifted under my feet. I found the envelope under the fruit bowl, heavy paper, my name typed too clean. The flap resisted, then tore, and the sound scraped the inside of my skull. 60 pages clipped tight, the top sheet stamped with a law firm I didn't recognize, my future reduced to paragraphs and penalties. I laid it flat on the island, and the fridge hum filled the room. My breath caught like I'd swallowed water wrong, and my fingertips went numb as I read the first line. The terms didn't read like protection. They read like a trap with a smile. I would get nothing if the marriage ended, even if he broke it. Any children would stay with him because he had superior resources. I couldn't work in anything, competing with his family business, ever, even after. I would repay gifts as if love were a loan. One line talked about my body like a product, weight limits, and breach. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth, and the paper blurred for a second as my eyes watered from keeping them open. At the rehearsal dinner, Judith didn't whisper. She stood at the head of the long table under warm lights and set the packet in front of me as if it were a dessert course. She announced I needed to sign it before tomorrow's wedding. Alex blinked and said we had already agreed, months ago, there would be no prenup. Judith smiled without showing teeth and said she had taken the liberty, because someone needed to protect her son's interests since he was too blinded by love to think clearly. She said when things go south, not if, like the ending had already been written, and she was only asking me to initial it. Alex grabbed the pages and started reading. His face flushed deeper with each turn, and his jaw muscle jumped like it wanted to break free. My father's chair scraped back. Judith looked straight at me and used the words gold diggers, even though I had paid for most of the wedding, even though my loans were already gone and his were not. She said she had hired an investigator, and if nothing bad had been found yet, that only meant I was better at hiding it. She said the document was non-negotiable, and if I refused, the wedding was off, because she wouldn't let her son make a mistake under her roof. My hand went to the ring before I stood up, because my body wanted something solid to hold onto. The metal stuck against swollen skin for a second and then slid free. I set it down beside the packet, slow enough for everyone to see. I thanked Judith for showing me the rest of my life in writing and said the wedding was off, not because I wouldn't sign her paper, but because I wasn't going to spend decades negotiating for air. Alex's mouth opened and closed. He said we could fix it. I asked him in a low voice if he would cut her out completely. No calls, no dinners, no access, and he paused long enough for the room to hear it. Later, in Otto's truck outside my parents' house, the engine off, my hands pressed flat on my thighs, I watched my phone light up again and again on the seat. The screen showed Alex's name, then went dark, then flashed again. My mouth tasted like pennies from where I'd bitten the inside of my cheek. Otto didn't give advice. He asked what I needed first. I told him boxes. He nodded like that made sense, like packing was a form of first aid, and the porch light burned in the windshield while my lungs kept refusing full breaths. Morning came without permission. I woke under the glow stars on my childhood ceiling, the ones I had stuck up there at 12, and my phone was a pile of buzzing weight on the nightstand. Notifications stacked until the screen looked crowded, messages from guests and vendors and Alex, all competing for space. My mother set coffee in my old chipped mug on the dresser and didn't ask questions. Talia arrived with takeout and a notebook and sat cross-legged on my bed. She talked like a dispatcher. Lease, utilities, joint account, mail forwarding, gifts, refunds, keys, and my stomach kept tightening each time she said something that proved how many strings were tied to him. The planner explained, clipped and professional, that Judith had called vendors before I even left the dinner, putting them on standby. The florist had already ordered thousands of dollars of flowers and was keeping the deposit. The caterer had purchased food and was keeping theirs. The venue's contract was being reviewed for breach because Judith's calls looked like sabotage. I sat on my bed and watched my mother's hands twist in her lap, watched Talia's pen stop mid-word, and felt a small sharp heat rise behind my ribs, like my body wanted to laugh and couldn't. That night, Otto drove me back to the apartment. He parked near the exit instead of our usual spot. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner, too sharp, and my eyes kept tracking the corners. Inside, the place looked the same until it didn't. The photo was gone from the entry table, just that clean dust rectangle. The desk drawer hung open. The passport slot was empty. The ring box was still on the counter with the lid snapped back, and the empty foam inside looked like a mouth without teeth. Otto walked the rooms without speaking, and the way he looked at the missing spots made my throat tighten, as if I'd been caught doing something wrong. We packed fast. Otto pulled my clothes from the shared closet and folded them into boxes with square corners. I cleared the bathroom drawers, my hands clumsy around toothbrushes and bottles that had lived beside his for years. Every shared item had a memory welded to it, and my throat kept tightening in small pulses, like it wanted to close and stay closed. When Alex came home, he froze in the doorway with his keys still in his hand, eyes darting to the boxes and then to me. He asked to talk alone. Otto stepped outside but stayed in the window's frame, broad shoulders filling it like a warning. Alex sat on the couch and said his mother would apologize, said she would stay out of our lives. He said it like a script he had practiced. I asked him what stay out meant when she controlled his trust, his job, his apartment. He stared at his hands and talked about boundaries, about trying, about time. His words circled the problem without touching it. I slid my apartment key off my ring and placed it in his palm. His fingers closed around it too slowly, and the way he held that key told me he was still waiting for permission to choose. My first night in that apartment, I ate pizza over the sink because there was no table. The mattress sat on a metal frame that squeaked when I shifted. I checked the deadbolt. Then I checked it again. I shoved a chair under the knob and lined my shoes by the bed as if I might need to run. The fridge hum started in the kitchen, and my throat tightened so hard it pulled my jaw. My breath went shallow, and I lay still and listened to pipes tick and distant doors close, counting the seconds between sounds until my eyes burned. The next morning, I walked into a diner that smelled like fry oil, my resume damp in my hand. The manager skimmed it and asked if I could start that night. When I said I needed 2 days, he slid it back without touching my fingers and said they needed someone who wasn't complicated. On Monday, I went to work because sitting alone made the air feel thick. In the elevator mirror, my lips looked cracked, and a red line marked my cheek from the pillow. In the office kitchen, a conversation stopped mid-sentence when I walked in. Someone handed me coffee without meeting my eyes, and my fingers trembled against the cup. My boss called me into her office and asked, careful, whether there would be awkwardness with the Redmond account. My tongue felt too big for my mouth. I told her my work would stay clean, and she nodded like she wanted to believe me but needed proof. I stayed late that night and built a spreadsheet until the rows blurred. I listed every payment I had made for the wedding, every deposit, every vendor email, every date. When my hands started to shake, I pressed my palms flat on the desk and waited for the tremor to pass. At home, I sat on the floor with my laptop and wrote one message to all the guests. I kept it short. I didn't explain. I hit send and watched the screen go still, and the quiet that followed felt like the apartment had changed shape around me. The first real win didn't come with fireworks. It came on a Friday in a bank app notification. My paycheck cleared and the rent didn't zero me out. I drove to a grocery store and bought eggs, rice, and a cheap pan. I carried the bags up the stairs and my forearms burned from the weight. I stood in my kitchen and ate a hot meal with my back against the counter and my eyes on the door, chewing slow, waiting for a knock that didn't happen. Later that week, a voicemail from Judith landed in my inbox, her tone smooth, almost gentle, saying she was sorry I took it personally. And my teeth pressed together so hard my jaw ached. A thick envelope came next, demand letters on expensive letterhead, itemized lists of gifts they wanted back as if my life were a receipt. I scanned the pages at the office printer during lunch, shoulders hunched so nobody could read over my shoulder. My lawyer wrote back in cold language, explaining what a gift is and what it is not. Each response cost money I had to count. Each time my phone buzzed, my mouth filled with metallic saliva and my hands went clumsy, and I started carrying my keys between my fingers when I walked from my car to my door at night. The climb happened in steps I could feel in my calves. Wednesday nights in a recreation gym with a volleyball net and fluorescent lights, sweat stinging my eyes while people laughed at missed serves, my lungs finally pulling full air for 2 straight hours. A promotion that came after an annual review where my boss said my work was steady. And I nodded while my ribs expanded and contracted too fast under my blouse. A better apartment later, higher up, cleaner, a doorman who smiled and remembered my name, and a new habit of checking the lock, walking away, coming back, and checking it again. I learned my damage in small rituals. I bought extra canned food and lined it up in the back of the pantry with labels facing out, neat rows, because a full shelf made my breathing slow down. In restaurants, I chose the seat that faced the exit without thinking about it. In a bright place with white linen and expensive water glasses, I sat across from a coworker and realized I had not tasted the food yet because my eyes kept tracking the door each time it opened. My coworker asked if I was tired. I smiled and said yes, and my teeth clicked once. On a winter Thursday, 6 winters after the rehearsal dinner, my phone lit up with a name I had not saved but recognized. Evan Redmond, Alex's brother. The message was short and polite, the tone people use when they want something but want to look clean while asking. He said he was in town and asked to meet for coffee near the library. He wrote "Family Matters," and my eyes kept snagging on that phrase like a splinter. The fridge hum drifted from my kitchen and my breath caught hard, my fingers going numb around the phone as if it had turned to ice. I didn't tell myself stories about courage. I wrote the address on paper and slid it into my wallet like evidence. I texted Otto the time and the place and told him to keep his phone on. I wore a plain coat, no jewelry, nothing that could be called a gift. In the parking garage, my footsteps sounded too loud, each heel click bouncing off concrete. I parked where I could see my car from the cafe windows. I walked the block with my shoulders tight and my eyes moving in small, quick cuts. Alley mouth, cross street, storefront reflections, hands in pockets, faces turned away, faces turned too long. The coffee shop sat on the corner, all glass and warm light, people inside hunched over laptops, steam rising in slow lines. I paused before the crosswalk and watched the patterns. Doors opening, heads turning, hands going to pockets, someone stepping out with a cup and looking both ways. A stroller rolled past, and the small squeak of its wheel made my teeth clench. I stepped off the curb when the light changed and kept my pace even. The bell above the cafe door chimed each time someone entered, a bright metal sound that cut through conversation. Each time the door opened, warm air carried espresso and sugar and wet wool from coats. A chair scraped. A spoon tapped ceramic. Laughter popped and died. Through the glass I saw Evan at a corner table without looking directly at him because my eyes went to hands first. His hands were flat on the table, empty. His shoulders shifted as if he had been sitting too long. I marked the exits the way my body always did. The front door I was standing at, the side hallway that led to restrooms, the back service door with a small sign. I kept my chin level and my jaw loose so it wouldn't chatter, and I watched the room for the small things that meant movement. A phone lifted, a coat sleeve tugged, a newspaper being folded. I stopped with my fingers inches from the handle and watched reflections in the glass. A car door closing outside, a shadow pausing behind me, then moving on. Evan's gaze lifted toward the door and held there, waiting. My pulse hammered up under my tongue, and my fingertips tingled like they had fallen asleep. My fingers wrapped around the coffee shop door handle and closed. The bell above the door snapped when I stepped inside. Warm air hit my face, espresso and sugar and wet wool from coats. My shoes made one small squeak on the tile, loud enough that the barista glanced up. I didn't look for Evan first. I looked for exits. The side hallway. The back door with the red bar, the glass front, the line of people between me and the street. I ordered something small I could hold. I paid with my card because I wanted the receipt timestamp. The cup lid flexed under my fingers, and I kept my hand wrapped around it like it was an anchor. When I turned, Evan was already watching me from a corner table, his back angled toward the wall, his coat folded on the chair beside him like he planned to leave fast. He didn't stand, he didn't smile, he lifted his chin the way someone acknowledges a delivery. "Thanks for coming," he said, calm and clean. "Sit." I sat where I could see the door without turning my head. The chair pressed into my spine. My cup warmed my palm, and my other hand stayed flat on my thigh to keep it still. Evan's hands were on the table, palms down, empty. A leather folder sat in front of him, squared with the table edge like it belonged there. "This doesn't have to be messy," he said. "I'm here to close it." "Close what?" I said, and my throat made the words come out thin. He opened the folder and slid a stack of paper toward me without pushing it all the way. The top page had a law firm header and my full name typed in the center like I'd been summoned. "Mutual resolution," he said, like he was reading menu items. "Confidentiality, non-disparagement, release of claims. We're willing to reimburse certain wedding expenses." Certain. The word sat on the table like a coin he didn't want to spend. I didn't touch the paper. I read from where I sat. The language was smooth, polite, and shaped like a trap. A statement I would sign saying the rehearsal dinner incident was a misunderstanding that escalated. A promise not to discuss family matters with anyone. A promise not to damage reputation. A promise to return property. My mouth went dry fast, saliva thick, and I swallowed twice before speaking. "Your mother wrote this." Evan blinked once. "My mother requested it. I'm the one delivering it." She handed me 60 pages in front of 50 people, I said. She called me a gold digger. She said when, not if, she planned that. Evan's gaze didn't move. She acted to protect her son. And you're acting to protect her, I said. He made a small motion with his hand, the kind that signals patience. Sign it and it ends. No more letters, no more phone calls, no more complications. The word complications landed with a soft thud inside my ribs. I kept my voice level. Why are you the one meeting me? Evan's eyes flicked to my cup and back. Alex can't do this. Can't, I repeated. He'll say the wrong thing, Evan said. He'll make it emotional, he'll worsen it. Worsen. Like my life was a spill and he was handing me paper towels. I leaned forward just enough to make him feel it. Did you read what she put in that prenup? Evan's jaw tightened and then smoothed again. Parts were excessive. Excessive, I said, and my tongue pressed hard against the back of my teeth. His hand slid to the top sheet and paused there like he was deciding whether to pull a weapon out. This agreement is standard, he said. It protects everyone. My fingers tightened around the cup until the lid creaked. From who? Evan's voice stayed calm. From public opinion, from gossip, from people who don't understand the context. Context, I said. You mean control. He exhaled through his nose, slow. You're intelligent, you have a career. You can see the math. You can sign and walk away with reimbursement. Or you can refuse and watch this stretch. My pulse thumped high in my throat, loud enough that I had to focus to hear him clearly. And if I refuse? Evan's eyes softened, practiced. Then my mother will defend herself. By lying, I said. By speaking, Evan corrected. And people listen to mothers. I stared at his folder. The paper looked too bright under cafe lights. The signature line waited like a mouth open for a bite. I heard my own voice come out flat. Who went into the apartment after I left? Evan's fingers stopped moving. The entry table, I said. The dust rectangle where a photo was, the desk drawer left open. The passport slot empty, the ring box on the counter. His eyes held mine a beat too long. Why are you bringing that up? Answer, I said. Evan's mouth pressed into a thin line. Alex had a key, he said. It wasn't unsafe. Did you take my passport? I asked. Evan didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He said it was secured. My breath caught hard, like my ribs forgot how to expand. Where? In a safe place, he said. You can have it back. The cafe sounds sharpened. Spoon against ceramic, steam wand hiss, a chair leg scrape. The bell above the door chiming as someone walked in. Every sound hit like a tap on glass. You entered my home, I said. You took my documents. Evan's voice stayed smooth. We prevented damage. What damage? I said, and my mouth filled with metallic saliva. He leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped, gentle in a way that felt like a hand over my mouth. The damage people do when they feel wronged, he said. There was the turn, not shouting, not rage. A calm diagnosis, like I was unstable and he was the responsible one. I sat back and pressed my spine into the chair. This is coercion, I said. That's what you're doing. Evan's eyes moved to my coat pocket like he could see my phone through fabric. Don't record me, he said. I didn't say I was, I said. He tapped the folder once. Sign it. Take the reimbursement, take your passport, walk away clean. My hands went cold at the fingertips. My lawyer will see this, I said. His calm slipped a fraction, a tightness around the eyes. You don't need to escalate. You escalated when you stepped into my apartment, I said. Evan's voice went quiet again. If you push this into lawyers, it becomes public. I lifted my cup and took a sip just to wet my mouth. The coffee burned my tongue and made my eyes water. I blinked slow and set the cup down carefully. I'm not signing anything today, I said. Bring my passport to my lawyer. Evan watched me stand. His gaze was steady and his words stayed polite. If you do this the hard way, he said, my mother will protect the family. You'll be blamed for what happens to Alex. My throat tightened. Swallowing took effort. I didn't answer. I stepped away from the table without scraping the chair, and the bell snapped again when I pushed through the door. Outside, cold air slapped my face. Street noise rushed in, tires on wet pavement, a bus hiss, a dog's nails clicking on concrete. My hand shook once when I pulled my phone out. An unknown number had already texted. Do not make this public. I took a screenshot. My thumb hit forward without thinking, and my lawyer's name lit up on the screen. I sent the image, then sent the cafe address, then turned my phone face down in my palm like it could bite. In the garage, my footsteps echoed off pillars. I paused at my car and looked under it before unlocking the door. My hand checked the handle twice after the lock clicked, like the first click might be a lie. I sat in the driver's seat and stared at the rearview mirror until my eyes started to blur. My phone vibrated again. Another unknown text. You're remembering it wrong. We're trying to help you. The word help made my jaw clamp. I forwarded it too. My lawyer's office smelled like paper and old coffee. The waiting room chairs were soft enough to swallow you. A silent screen showed the building lobby camera, people moving without sound, doors opening and closing like a mouth. When my lawyer took the folder from my hands, she held it with 2 fingers like it was contaminated. She read without changing her face. Her pen clicked once and stopped. "They admitted entry," she said, tapping a paragraph. "They admitted possession of your passport. They presented this as a condition to silence you." My mouth was so dry my tongue stuck to my teeth. "He said secured," I said. She looked up. "He can call it whatever he wants. In a courtroom, it's what it is." Her pen moved fast. "We do 2 things today," she said. "We demand the passport returned through counsel, in person, documented. And we file a police report for the passport and the unauthorized entry. A report is not drama. A report is a record." The word record settled in my chest like a weight I could use. The police station smelled like disinfectant and stale air. A television in the corner played a morning show with the volume low. A vending machine hummed and rattled when someone kicked it. I sat on a plastic chair and watched a crack in the tile run like a vein across the floor. An officer took my statement at a metal desk. He asked if I was sure I didn't misplace my passport. He asked if my ex had a key. He asked if this was a breakup thing. I kept my hands on my knees. I kept my voice even. I described the dust rectangle where a photo had been. I described the open drawer. I described the missing passport. I described Evan's exact words, secured. The officer printed a report number and slid it across the desk. The paper was thin, almost soft. I held it between my fingers and felt my pulse in the pads of them. That afternoon, we waited in my lawyer's conference room. The walls were glass and the chairs were firm. I sat with my coat still on because taking it off felt like letting my guard down. My lawyer placed a recorder on the table in plain view and didn't hide it. She wanted them to see it and choose their words accordingly. Evan arrived 10 minutes late, alone, carrying a slim envelope. He didn't look at me. He nodded to my lawyer like she was a colleague. He set the envelope on the table, precise. "Passport," he said, "as requested." My lawyer didn't touch it. "Open it," she said. Evan's jaw flickered. He opened the flap and slid the passport out, then placed it back inside and pushed the envelope forward. My lawyer used a glove to pull it out, checked the name, checked the number, checked the photo. She held it up, then slid it to me. When I touched it, my fingers tingled and went cold, then hot. The cover felt familiar and wrong at the same time, like something that had been in someone else's pocket too long. My lawyer looked at Evan. "You will not contact my client again," she said. "No texts, no calls, no third parties, no offers. All communication goes through counsel. If your mother continues, we will seek a protective order." Evan's face stayed calm, but his eyes sharpened. "A protective order is extreme." My lawyer didn't blink. Entering her home and withholding her passport was extreme. Evan's gaze finally moved to me, a flat look. "You're making this bigger than it has to be," he said. My lawyer cut in, voice clean. "She didn't make it bigger. Your family did. Leave." Evan stood. His chair legs scraped, a harsh sound. He gathered his empty folder, then paused as if he wanted the last word. His mouth opened, then closed again. He left without touching the bell on the way out, holding the door so it wouldn't chime. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a message from my lawyer. "Cease and desist delivered." No response yet. That evening, a coworker pulled me aside near the printer and asked, carefully, if I'd heard what people were saying. She didn't say names. She didn't need to. She described posts without quoting them. She described comments without reading them. My tongue went numb at the edges, and I could feel my pulse in my gums. I went home and opened my laptop. I didn't scroll. I didn't argue. I saved screenshots. I saved dates. I saved names. Each click felt like stacking bricks. On Saturday, a car idled outside my building for 20 minutes. I watched it from behind the curtain, my breath shallow, my fingers cold. When it finally pulled away, my knees unlocked so suddenly I had to grab the window frame to keep from swaying. On Monday, an envelope arrived at my office. Not my home, my office. The paper was thick. The header was new. The tone was still polite. They demanded return of gifts. They hinted at property damage. They suggested amicable resolution if I complied. My lawyer's response went out the same day. It included the police report number. It included the documented passport return. It included a sentence that changed the air in my lungs when I read it. Any further contact will be presented to the court as part of a petition for a protective order. 2 weeks later, we stood in a courthouse hallway that smelled like old stone and copier toner. People sat on benches with manila folders on their laps. A clock ticked behind a glass window, steady and indifferent. Judith arrived in a cream coat with a scarf that looked expensive and soft. She walked like she owned the floor. Her eyes found me and held for a beat too long, then slid away like I was something on a shoe. In the courtroom, she spoke in the same tone she used at the rehearsal dinner. Calm, administrative, certain she was right. She said she had only tried to protect her son. She said I had misinterpreted a reasonable request. She said I was being difficult. She said she didn't know anything about a passport and suggested I must have lost it in the chaos. Her voice stayed smooth even when she lied. My lawyer placed the police report on the table. She placed the signed acknowledgement of passport return. She played the short audio of Evan saying the word secured. Judith's face didn't crumple. It tightened. The skin around her mouth pulled back as if it had been stitched. The judge looked down at the papers, then up at Judith, then back down again. The room was quiet enough that I could hear my own breathing, thin and fast. My fingers tingled. My feet felt cold inside my shoes. The judge's voice was plain. "Do not contact her," he said. "Do not go to her home. Do not go to her workplace. Do not use third parties. If you violate this order, there will be consequences." Judith's head tilted a fraction, like she couldn't believe someone was speaking to her that way. Her lips parted as if she wanted to correct him. She didn't. Outside the courthouse, my lungs pulled in a fuller breath than they had in weeks. It didn't feel like peace. It felt like space. Like a door had been shut between my skin and her hands. That night, I sat in my apartment and checked the deadbolt once. Then I made myself stop. My fingers hovered over the lock, the habit screaming for a second check. I lowered my hand slowly until it rested on my thigh. My phone stayed quiet. A month later, I walked past the same coffee shop. The bell chimed as someone else went in. I paused at the glass and saw my reflection layered over the tables inside. For a moment, my hand remembered the door handle, the warmth, the folder, the word secured. I kept walking. I didn't win by humiliating her back. I didn't win by burning her world down. I won by building a record she couldn't talk her way out of, by putting her choices in a place where charm didn't matter, and by walking away with my documents in my hand and her reach cut short. At night, I still faced the exit when I sat down. I still kept extra food in the pantry. I still listened for cars that idled too long. But the locks held, and the silence in my apartment finally belonged to me.